All right, welcome in. Monday Fun Day here, the calm before the storm, as we're getting ready for the big game this Sunday in New Orleans. We've got a lot this week to cover when it comes to that. Plenty of prop bets we're going to talk about here today. As you can tell, I am definitely not the Prez, who is on location in the south of France. If anybody happens to run into him on the street there, make sure you say hi. But we've got business here to take care of all week on WagerTalk Today. Steve Merril, R1L, will be by. He's got a handful of Super Bowl props, not to mention a big slate in the association today. Jesse Schule will be by as well. He'll talk a Super Bowl prop. Also, plenty of action to talk about in the NBA. Let's not forget the one and only VR. Gianni the Greek will end things here today with the Steam Report, which leaves us no better way to start the damn week than with our good man, TC, Teddy Covers, in the house here. And Teddy got a little something for everybody here today. But Teddy, you and I were on last call over the weekend, and you and I both said as we woke up to the news yesterday that neither of us had Doncic as a Laker on our bingo card, but yet here we are. The hits kept coming. San Antonio went ahead and got a little bit better too as well, with De'Aaron Fox now teamed up with Wembanyama. I have no idea what the hell the Bulls are doing. But big picture here, Teddy, what does it all mean when you look at it from up top here? Who are the real winners and losers this week?
Yeah, that's a good question, Joe. And a question with not an obvious answer. Let's break down Luka to the Lakers, Anthony Davis to the Mavs first, because that's the one where I genuinely thought the NBA future book odds went the wrong way after the trade. All right. The Lakers, and let me start with this. I'm not telling anyone to bet any of these future book odds. All right. I don't think the Mavs are winning a title this year. I don't think the Lakers are winning a title this year. I don't think the Mavs are coming out of the West. I don't think the Lakers are coming out of the West. So to make a future book, Dallas come out of the West, LA to come out of the West, either one to win the title, not anything I'm going to bet on. But the odds shift after the trade against Dallas. Dallas's future book odds basically doubled. And towards the Lakers, to me, is completely nonsensical. Okay? When we're talking about for this season, LA no longer has any low post defense. Okay? LA has a point guard who, while enjoying an elite skill set, is oft hurt and is someone who the team that had him didn't want him anymore. When we speak about Luka behind the scenes, this is an attack on Luka's character. This is a slap in the face on a guy who, from a basketball standpoint, can be elite. But obviously the conditioning issues have been a problem. The ability to play has been a problem. The focus has been a problem. Does Luka give LA a chance somewhere down the line to win a title? It's still in the LeBron era, potentially. But this year, without Anthony Davis, I think the Lakers' playoff chances declined, not improved with Luka. And Dallas goes the other way. All right. It's not like the Mavs don't have someone that can handle the point, whether you're talking about Spencer Dinwiddie, whether you're talking about Jalen Hardy, whether you're talking about Kyrie playing minutes at points, where you talk about Max Christie, who they just brought in, and of course Quentin Grimes, who has gotten healthy and is now a factor. It's not like they don't have someone that can handle the basketball. And now they pick up, I understand Anthony Davis too has injury issues, but he's a guy with a ring. He's a guy who plays defense in the low post, and that's something you need to contend for a title. So if we're talking about LA's odds getting better and the Mavs odds getting worse for this year, I think that's backwards. I think Dallas has a better chance with Anthony Davis than they did with Luka, and the other way around for the Lakers, a weaker chance this season to make a deep playoff run after the trade. So this is one of the rare instances where I think the market's got it dead wrong in terms of the 2025 playoff chances or championship chances for these two teams. Now, again, I don't think either team's going to get there, Joe. I don't think you do either. But from a future book odds standpoint, the value is with Dallas right now, not with LA.
Yeah, I see it there, Teddy, and you're right. I think absolutely when we're looking at it from a big picture, I don't understand the fascination outside of we're just talking about LeBron James love, right? And like they just want LeBron. Like he's done it before. He's done it a million times before, Teddy. Right? He played second fiddle to Kyrie when they went to the finals in Cleveland. We can't talk about 30 and 35-year-old LeBron like 40-year-old LeBron. He's not the best player on the team, and they still don't have a big. So how is anybody running to the window to back the Lakers here, thinking they're going to compete with the Western Conference, the upper echelon? I don't get it, Teddy.
So you and I talked off air before we did last call yesterday. Talked about how OKC, let's see him win a playoff series. And I know they won a playoff series last year, but OKC, when you're talking about in the West, are they a trustworthy favorite to come out of the West? They're not, because they haven't done it before. You know, they've won one playoff series. And in the postseason, that sort of thing matters. And I'm very interested. I expect to be fading OKC come playoff time. Maybe things change between now and then, but I would expect that the Thunder will be a little bit overpriced. So you have OKC at the top. And then who else is your legit contenders in the West? I've heard, it can only be OKC coming out of the West. And that's nonsense. It's garbage. Dallas was live before the trade. They're still live after the trade. Denver, very much live to come out of the West. What's the Clips upside in the Western Conference? Can Minnesota or Phoenix figure something out? And of course, Memphis and Houston are two teams you don't want to take lightly. So there's plenty of contenders in the Western Conference that are better than the Lakers right now. And just to figure that, and again, Luka's hurt. You know, he's not even practicing with his new team. He's a high usage player. He's going to have the ball in his hands most of the time. There's an adjustment period with teams learn to play with that. Now, look, LeBron's the best 40-year-old NBA player I've ever seen in my life. It's not close. I mean, I can't think of anyone at 40 that he can still dominate a game. He can still take over. His skill set is still very, very elite. And, I mean, where do we put him? Is he still a top 5 player? He's certainly a top 10 player. I'll take LeBron on my team right now. But the pieces around him, again, and the defensive pieces around him now are very much a concern for LA. I don't think this improves their title chances this year. What it does is it gives them a superstar to build around moving forward, because LeBron ain't going to be there that much longer. And that is the bigger move for LA. And of course, now they're going to have to pay Luka. And Dallas clearly didn't want to do that, concerned about the effect of how hard he was going to condition and play after he got paid for real.
The one bet I did make this morning, Teddy, is I think I got, was it plus 125, plus 130, San Antonio to make the play-in game in the West. What did you think of this trade here with Wemby? They gave up absolutely nothing from a youth perspective. They still have all the cap space. They still have all the draft pick. It feels like San Antonio's playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers here. But what do you think of their chances now with the Aaron Fox coming to play with Wemby? Do you give him a shot to make the playoffs?
So it's one of the interesting trades that I didn't like it for anybody. All right. I certainly don't like it for Sacramento. All right. You know, we've seen Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan play together. We've seen it. And okay, Sabonis a little bit better than Vukovic. You know, but that's a 500 team waiting to happen, and now you're going to pay LaVine? For the Spurs, you get Aaron Fox. Aaron Fox isn't a spring chicken anymore. All right. He's what, his 8th year, 9th year in the league, 10th year in the league. I would expect who they have to pay now. That's the thing that San Antonio lost in this trade. They lost the future flexibility to be able to bring in whoever. And they're going to have to pay De'Aaron Fox. That's why Sacramento let him go, because they didn't expect his skill set to last for another 5 years after this one. So the Spurs lose future flexibility, certainly to make the playoffs this year. And De'Aaron Fox is a really good player, okay? I think he'll fit well in San Antonio. And when you picture him running the pick and roll with Wemby and then the perimeter shooters, San Antonio all of a sudden has scary potential. But, you know, that's a 500 team waiting to happen, and now you're going to pay LaVine? For the Spurs, you get Aaron Fox. Aaron Fox isn't a spring chicken anymore. All right. I would expect who they have to pay now. That's the thing that San Antonio lost in this trade. They lost the future flexibility to be able to bring in whoever. And they're going to have to pay De'Aaron Fox. So the Spurs lose future flexibility, certainly to make the playoffs this year. And I mean, the Spurs had scary potential to begin with. But now you're paying Fox. He's getting older, and you're going to have to, all of a sudden San Antonio's window, the clock is ticking. The window's open. And I don't think it should be yet. I think the Spurs should have waited maybe a year or two before they opened that window. That's not the case now. So it certainly helps them short term. I don't know if it helps them win a title in the next couple of years, but it could. Sacramento, I have no idea what they're doing. Like I said, and for Chicago, I mean, they're I guess they got rid of Levine, but they're another team that's just, they've been playing this, 500 level basketball like Sacramento, a little bit better than 500 level basketball in recent seasons. And I don't see this trade moving the needle for either the Kings or the Bulls in a positive direction.
I'm with you 100% there, Teddy. And by the way, Chicago, until, and this goes for the White Sox as well, until you get a new owner, don't know what to tell you there. The Bulls and the White Sox are going to be struggling for a very long time. All right, Teddy, let's talk here a little bit about the big game coming up. Obviously, 6 days away now. Sunday, you'll be here before we know it. A lot happening. Not much in the marketplace. I'll ask you. I've been asking everyone all week here. 1.5. Do we think it's going to go either way there? Do you think the total is the one thing to move? What do you think we're going to see in the market this week?
So last week on the opening line report, the NFL opening line report, every Monday during football season, we'll do it again today, and we'll have one final show next week before the season is through. Myself and Drew Martin, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. But I talked about it last week. Looking at the free WagerTalk live screen right now, I'm like, this line's not going anywhere. Open 1.5, sitting 1.5. Total open, I guess there were 49.5 out there. I'm like, there was a little bit of under money to begin with. I've been hearing from little birdies around town. And that's one thing I love about Super Bowl week is that, all my wise guy friends are around and they're all chirping all week. So you get the buzz. So I've been getting a little bit of buzz that some people think money's going to come for Philly before kickoff. They think that the Eagles may go off as a favorite, that it may go pick them. I'm seeing no signs of that. I would not expect that to happen, even though my sharp friends say that it will, because I still think Kansas City is the team that's going to attract at least a modest majority of public action. So I don't see this line moving. I don't see this total moving, not in any significant way between now and kickoff. Could we see a deluge of sharp Philly money? We could. But will that be offset by the money that's going to come in on Kansas City in the last 72 hours before kickoff? Probably. I expect the line to close similar to where it is right now. And again, from a total standpoint, same story. Yeah, there's some 48.5s out there now. It's mostly 49s. Could we see a little bit of under money? Probably. Some sharp under money. Will that be offset by the public over money that's going to come in the 72 hours before kickoff? Probably. So I'm not anticipating anything doing for this line between now and game day. I think it's going to be in the same range.
Got some great comments coming in here during the show, guys. Do not forget, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We still got much to get to here today. Double R, 1L will be here. He's going to talk a Super Bowl prop as well as Jesse Schule. And, of course, VR, Gianni the Greek will close it out with his Steam report there. But, Teddy, I'm seeing a lot of interesting comments in the chat room. Shout out, by the way, Bill Sandoval, Big Daddy and company there. Andrew's in the house. Titan CT. Where is the correlation in this as far as the prop betting market and the outcome of the game? Is there one to you if we're expecting an over? Are we looking at a lot of over props? What is the best way with over 1 million different props to be able to choose? What's the best way to tackle it if you want to go to the prop market this week?
So I got 50 pages of prop from the Westgate right here, and going through them all, it takes hours. All right. The answer is, do your work. You're not going to look at a prop sheet and go, oh, this is the right bet. It doesn't work that way, at least not for me. You have to sit down. You have to make numbers. You have to think about numbers. You have to think about game plans. And then from there, stuff starts to pop. And when stuff starts to pop, you're like, all right, this is the way that I feel the game's going to go down. Now, what bets does this correlate with? There has to be some handicap of the game before you're making these prop bets. But I'll tell you what, the single biggest mistake that I see the casual bettors make, and I see them every year, there's a huge disparity in the types of bet recreational bettors are making versus professional bettors, the wise guys. The wise guys are very comfortable laying a price, laying some juice, betting more to win less. And the recreational bettors are always trying to find the long shots, the plus price props. How do I bet a little to win a lot? That's hard to do on Super Bowl Sunday. And you look at the props, I have a 9-play prop report out for the clients for Super Bowl Sunday. We have a 5% big ticket on the game. I have a 5% big ticket in college hoops tonight. There's lots of good bets out there right now. All right. But when we're talking about the best bets prop-wise for Super Bowl Sunday, for me, oftentimes they come with laying some juice and laying a price because the public has inflated some of these plus price opportunities. Score in the final 2 minutes of the first half, minus 330, the prevailing number out there. Do we expect to score in the final 2 minutes of the first half? Hell yeah, we do. Should it be a 3-1 favorite? Yes, it should be a 3-1 favorite. These are two teams that when they get the opportunity at the end of the half, they have the capacity to move the ball down the field and put points on the board. But are you going to find a casual bettor that's going to lay 3-1 on that? Hell no. That's all wise guys, and it's wise guys for a reason.
They say, Teddy, right? Bet the favorites early, bet the unders, lay it early and bet the unders late here. If that's the direction you guys are going here. So you've got your homework in there, Teddy. I was going to suggest that the best way to do it is just to partner up with you now through, next Super Bowl at all, because that opportunity presenting itself at a hell of a price there, Teddy, right now. All picks until the next Super Bowl for just $11.99. That is an investment in you. That is the way you partner up, and that is the way you make money here. And your card for this big game, is it growing by the day? What do you anticipate to have by Sunday, Teddy, on your page at WagerTalk?
I mean, I've got most of what I'm going to put in. It's up and available right now. We have a 9-play prop report. We have a 5% big ticket on the money line for the Super Bowl side on Sunday. And, of course, I also have a 5% big ticket for tonight, a rare 5% big ticket for tonight, college hoops. I went back since 2022. I've only had like 35 of them. Not many. And, of course, they've hit it better than 60% during that span. So you're right. Partner up. Great time to do it. The all-access pass. You can also use promo code SPORT50 to take $50 off a 30-day single sport pass. NBA, obviously, is rolling for me right now. We had a great weekend, 80% all sports weekend for the clients. So we'll see if we can keep it rolling in the new week. Locked and loaded with big plays for Monday night. Check it out right now. WT.buzz/TC.
Gotta love that, Teddy, here. Also, Teddy on the way out, chat room wants to know, do you happen to have a color of the Gatorade that is going to be thrown? They're just throwing it out there. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying that's what's rolling around in the chat room right now. So we'll get Teddy's color. We'll get everyone's color today, Teddy. So don't feel bad.
Well,
I won't just throw you
there.
there.
There was something like if the Chiefs won, when the Chiefs win, they put purple on Andy Reid. Is that the story?
That's correct.
That's one that I've heard before. So, but I don't know what happens if Philly wins. Is there green Gatorade?
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Well, Dan will know that. Yeah. We'll have to get Dan's opinion on that because I'm pretty sure he's painted himself green all week. So that's the truth. That doesn't make a difference who wins.
Yeah, I would think it does make a pretty big. I think that would correlate very much with which team is going to win. So, in my opinion, the better bet is probably on the side itself, not the color of Gatorade that is going to be poured on the coach's head to celebrate if that side wins. So I'll make my wager that way.
Love it. Teddy, coming up top of the hour for one of the final two. I mean, you got to love it, Teddy. We're at that point of the year. Opening line report with Drew Martin, guys, coming up top of the hour, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Teddy will have much more, of course, on everything props and what's happening in the marketplace in the NFL. Make sure that you guys stay tuned for that coming up after Wager Talk today. And as always, Teddy, we appreciate the time. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Seeing roughly about 300 of you guys hanging out with us here today on YouTube. We certainly appreciate it. Little thumbs up, little subscribe button goes a long, long way as we get ready for a whole lot more information. Super Bowl prop as well as NBA talk with who better than Double R 1L. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Merril in the house. I know you are wearing your William and Mary thong. I know you're ready to go tonight, Merril. I'm just saying, nobody needs to know, but I know you're going to be supporting them tonight in a big game in your backyard, in your alma mater, my man. But we'll get to that. In the meantime, what did you think of the Luka trade? Were you one of the guys running to the window to back the Lakers? Because it seems the entire market has lost their mind here, Merril.
I was surprised by it, and then De'Aaron Fox was the one we all thought was going to get traded, and then that happened, of course, yesterday to the Spurs. I think that is actually a very good move for San Antonio, big small combo. I mean, a couple things. My first take was that I think Dallas actually benefits, and everyone thinks it's such a robbery for the Mavs, but they get a big and they have a small still in Kyrie Irving. But I think big picture, this is just Dallas not wanting to gamble on Luka's future for another 5 years or so. He's a 28-year-old that's going on 40. We always joke about that. I was actually watching the Christmas game live when he got injured. He barely took the step and just got shut down. I mean, nobody touched him. So I would have been very cautious locking him up long-term. I think it's a good move for the Mavs, actually. The only question is that AD's an injury risk as well. So once again, pick your poison with both of them. But the Mavericks, of course, were in the NBA Finals last year. And I think with a big, small combo, and then if Lively can come back healthy as well, they could be pretty dangerous. So I don't think it was such a terrible trade for the Mavs as everybody thinks. And they got a first-round pick thrown in also, which could end up playing out in the future.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, to be determined, right? Let's see. But there's got to be a big underlining reason we're not hearing with Luka as to why you pass up on a generational talent like that and get a 31, 30, about to be 32, I think, Anthony Davis. On the downside of his career. But winning usually cures a lot of that, and we'll see if either of those two teams can do that, Merril. In the meantime, we got a loaded slate here tonight with some interesting games. I know the first one up, you're looking at Hawks and the Pistons. Detroit handled business at home last night against the Bulls. Rather easily. Now Atlanta comes to town here. Second of a back-to-back for Detroit. Does it matter in how you look and handicap this game?
Well, I mean, first thing, disclaimer with all the games this week, the trade deadline is still looming. I know we had some big news on Saturday and Sunday this weekend with some of the biggest names, but the trade deadline is this Thursday, February 6th. So we still could see some movement with some of these teams. So be careful cautiously with these games. Atlanta enters now off an 8-game losing streak. They do have a day of rest after the Indiana loss. I will say it's a step down in class for them after playing Minnesota, Houston, Cleveland, Indiana, 4 straight losses against those squads. And it's actually a quick revenge spot also because they just played Detroit back on January 22nd. That was the second of these 8 straight losses. Meanwhile, Detroit does enter this game off back-to-back wins. As you mentioned, they beat Chicago last night. It's now their 3rd game in 4 days, no rest situation. The line might look short, and it's hard to trust Atlanta off 8 losses, but I think a little bit of a contrarian call here with the Atlanta Hawks +4 tonight.
Liking the Hawks here in a tough spot here for Detroit. Speaking of tough spots, well, I guess maybe it's not because the Bucks aren't playing Memphis, which appears to be the kryptonite here, Merril. The Bucks cannot beat the Memphis Grizzlies. They looked old and slow in that fourth quarter last night. Memphis looked a lot more spry. They turned up the tempo, and that was all she wrote for the Bucks. But now they've got to go back on the road to OKC, who seems to be getting a little bit of money here, up to 11.5. And who can blame them? They're rested. They're at home. And my goodness, who the heck knows who's even going to play for Milwaukee tonight?
Yeah, for everybody that clicked subscribe and click the bell here on WagerTalk TV, they got a nice free play video Saturday afternoon. I did the Thunder and Sacramento game, so some nice weekend content, and I did give everyone a free play on Sacramento. In fact, I'm sorry, on Oklahoma City against Sacramento, and that line actually dropped from 9 down to 7.5 on Saturday because Jalen Williams was not going to play, and he averages about 20 points a game, but he's not the key player. Gilchrist is obviously the key player on that team, and I thought it was a very focused spot for OKC after losing 2 of their previous 3 games, and they routed the Kings by 34 points, 144 to 110. That was the play-on spot for Oklahoma City, in my opinion. Now, with that said, I do not trust the Milwaukee Bucks for the reasons you just mentioned. They've dropped 4 of their last 5 straight up, 3 straight losses, now traveling without rest, 3rd game in 4 nights. As of 12:30 Eastern here, we don't have the Milwaukee injury report. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some guys out, even though they've lost 3 straight. Jalen Williams is now questionable to maybe return for Oklahoma City. I'm going to stay away from the side. I think there's too much uncertainty there. But we have seen some money coming on the under, and I agree with that move. It's gone from 234.5 down to 232.5. There are some 233s out there still. Just can't imagine, Joe, that Milwaukee wants to run here, playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, a no-rest back-to-back situation. OKC's got 6-7 guys on the injury list, even if Williams returns. A lot of points here. We got a lot of wiggle room with the under here with all the uncertainty in this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Middleton close to, 28, 29 minutes. Lillard, as well as Giannis, 37, 38 minutes in that game. Now, it's a tough spot for Milwaukee here tonight in this one. Maybe not. We got plenty of time, Merril, until Sunday gets here. And, of course, we've got plenty of content available already on our YouTube page, which is just another great reason for you guys to hit that like and subscribe button. But let's talk props here. What is your approach when it comes to 1,000 different props for this game on Sunday? What do you do during the week? I mean, how do you tackle them? What's the best advice you have for folks looking to dive into the prop market?
Yeah, the first thing I say every year, the disclaimer I give is that you have to be careful not to overexpose your bankroll in the Super Bowl for several reasons. First of all, it's the final football game, so everyone gets excited. They want to go all in. Once again, there's a lot of basketball every day. There's baseball less than a couple months away. Keep that bankroll intact. And the other reason you want to be careful not to overexpose your bankroll is because most of the props are going to be correlated to how you think the game goes. And if you get it right, you're going to do really well. But if you get it wrong, you're going to do very poorly because it's all going to be correlated. So we're not making a bunch of 4% prop bets. We're making 1% to 2% bets because they're somewhat correlated on the outcome of the game. But once again, you have to start with the general premise. You think it's going to be high scoring or low scoring. That's going to determine a lot of your over-under props probably. Also, if you have a preferred side. But the biggest thing I look for is matchups, strengths versus weaknesses with both teams. And we have a little added bonus this year, Joe, because these teams just played exactly 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. I actually watched the replay of Super Bowl 57 last night to dig a little bit deeper. And I know there's some different pieces now, but there's a lot of the same pieces as well. The one thing I think it's different about this game is that the Eagles' defense was a lot better this season than last year and probably better than the year before as well. But that game was a shootout. We got a defensive return fumble for touchdown, almost a second one if you recall, but they ruled it a non-catch. So it was a very high-scoring back-and-forth game. And even with all those points, neither team scored 3 in a row, which normally happens. So I do think you could dig into that game book for Super Bowl 57 a little bit more than maybe in other past Super Bowls and find some edges for this rematch.
So when you talk to us about a prop you're looking at here, looks like I believe you're going to focus on the Kansas City side here for the show. Run us through the thought process on how you came up with this one.
Well, so I just talked about how we can dig into the game book from Super Bowl 57, but one guy you're not going to see in that game book is rookie Xavier Worthy, and I want to focus on him because I think he could be the X factor, no pun intended, but he's the fastest guy in the NFL. He broke the all-time 40-yard record in the Combine. He is a speed threat, but something else I look for with props in general in all sports is guys that are coming on more now than maybe their overall seasonal stats. Because, look, odds makers, they're smart. They look at the recent form, but they also are using seasonal stats. And Worthy is a guy that has vastly overachieved here the last couple months. And it makes so much sense because when you have a young rookie, 28th pick overall, first-round pick out of Texas, he's not going to necessarily get a lot of playing time early on. And you look at his receptions and targets for the first couple months of the season. In fact, we'll just look at the first 4 games this year. he had 4 targets or less in every game. His over-under receptions, by the way, is 5.5 for the Super Bowl. And he only had 4 targets in each of the first 4 games. And then all of a sudden in October, he had 22 targets in the next 3 games. You look at some of the games down the stretch. He didn't play in the finale against Denver, but in the final 3 regular season games, he had 31 targets and he had 21 receptions in the final 3 regular season games. So you can see the increase, and it has continued in the playoffs. Targeted 13 times with 11 receptions. And what that tells you is they're getting the ball to him in high percentage situations. So I do think the over 5.5 at plus money is worth a look. If you can find over 5, I would lay the juice because then you only lose with 4 or less. We got to get to 6 or more, and he's had 6 and 5 in each playoff game. But once again, the 3 regular season finales, 8, 7, and 6. The 2 before that, 5 and 5. So at plus money, over 5.5 receptions for Xavier Worthy makes sense. And I think you might see some quick dump-offs also, some quick receptions because he is so fast, especially in the Super Bowl. You're going to see some different type of offensive game planning from Andy Reid, who's as good as anyone's ever been off a bye week in his career. Talk about a crazy stat. I believe he's the all-time career win leader for both the Chiefs and Eagles as head coach. And that was like 2 years ago when they were in Super Bowl 57. Just an incredible stat and an incredible coach. So I think they're going to find a way to get the fastest man in the NFL the ball quite often in Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, put it in the hands of your playmakers, right? That's what it's all about. Right. I know a lot of guys that have been cashing tickets, I believe, with his rushing prop, too. Maybe his rushing yards. He seems to get those end arounds. And that's Andy Reid for you, man. Figure out, if it's not Tyreek Hill. And by the way, Buffalo, way to go. Way to trade out of that Worthy pick and give it to Kansas City. Well done. By the way, Buffalo Bills there. So there's a lot of different ways. And all week, Merril, you'll have your videos leading up to the game, of course, daily college and NBA content as well. What about tonight here? Are you going to the William and Mary game? The chat will kill me if I don't ask you. College of Charleston, I believe, it's a big game at the CAA tonight, no?
As a wise man once told me, am I going to the game? Does a fat dog fart, Bubba? That's what the guy told me. Yes, I will be at the game, but it is a late start, folks. 8 o'clock Eastern because it is on CBS Sportsnet National TV. A couple games ago, I made my national TV debut with my 80s hat, which you will see in the background over that shoulder. Which shoulder? I can't remember how these cameras right there. That's the 80s mesh hat. It is Star Wars themed tonight, Joe. They've been doing these theme nights. I will not be just dressed as a Jedi. But I will be there, and front row behind the Charleston bench near the score table. So find Waldo. Steve Merril, 8 o'clock Eastern, CBS Sportsnet. William Mary coming off a 41-point blowout against Campbell. We talked about that a little bit on last call Saturday. So it will be interesting to see how they bounce back against what I think is probably the best team in the conference still. Early money has come in on Charleston. The line's gone from 2 up to 3.5. Total's gone from 165.5 up to 166.5. William Mary plays extremely fast this year. We all know that, but Charleston does as well. So it should be a really entertaining game. And the Tribe hasn't really beaten quality teams yet. So we'll see if they can step up in class here and get it done at home tonight, but should be a nice atmosphere.
I love it. Way to get it done, William and Mary. Looking forward to it here. Merril, at your page right now at WagerTalk.com, what can folks get themselves today?
I've actually got an NBA best bet, not one of the games we talked about. That's ready right now on my page at WagerTalk.com. And, of course, you can get the play tonight for $25, or you can get it for free, and then every week for the next of the year for $23 a week. So, seriously, get every week for the next year plus for less than a single play because we got our Super Bowl to Super Bowl special. It starts this Sunday and runs till next year's Super Bowl, exactly 365 days and nights of all sports. But as an added bonus, when you sign up this week, you get the next 6 days and nights for free. You can wait till tomorrow. You'll get the next 5 days and nights for free. So why delay? It works out to $23 a week, $3 a day, about $1 a play for the next year plus of college and pro football, basketball, and baseball. Every best bet I personally release. Last year, we won 133 units on client best bets, more than doubled our bankroll by the end of August, and we're looking to do it again this year in 2025. Check it out, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and also get a daily free play on my page every day and use that shortcut to get there quicker. WT.buzz/SM.
All right, R1L. He'll be sitting in this host chair this week as well, as we're hoping, fingers crossed, that Prez doesn't ski into a tree. But crazier things have happened. Otherwise, you might be seeing us a little bit longer. We appreciate it, Merril, as always. Don't forget, guys, hit that like button for us. We certainly appreciate it. We got much more coming your way, including Gianni the Greek will be here in a couple of minutes with his Steam report. We'll also have the one and only. It feels like we're doing a lot of Kansas City Chief talk here, but I know one man that will show up in this show and give you the skinny when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. So stay tuned. Our man Dan is almost finished painting himself green, and he will have some info for you on the Philadelphia Eagles coming up. But we got to bring in our other main man here, Jesse Schule, in the house. He, too, locked and loaded for the big game coming up Sunday, Jess. But you got an NBA game and a college. There's really only one college basketball game, I think, that a lot of eyeballs are going to be on tonight. You're going to cover that between Iowa State and Kansas, two teams that are doing a great job of throwing up all over themselves here, my man. But tell me about the Rockets and the Knicks here tonight. The Knicks, some injury concerns happening here. The Rockets have had some injuries. Sengun, whether or not he's going to go. Van Fleet's been questionable. Knicks at home at the Garden. What are we thinking about this game tonight?
Well, I'm glad that you asked, Joe, because when I did my research for this game, my knee-jerk reaction was, I like Houston plus the points. And I dug into it a little bit, and then I see Van Fleet is out. Van Fleet is not going to play tonight. So I started thinking to myself, well, who's going to pick up the slack with Van Fleet out? And I'm looking at Amen Thompson. The guy was drafted as a point guard, played point guard until he arrived in the NBA. He's been playing some forward, small forward mostly, but he is their backup point guard. So he will get the opportunity to strut his stuff as a playmaker here. And he's going up against a Knick team that might be without OG Anunoby. That will certainly be a benefit to him, not having to deal with Anunoby. And the Knicks record with and without Anunoby is something we've talked about quite a bit. Thompson's really stepped up his game. He's averaging 13.6 points per game on the season. But if you just look in January alone, 18.7 points per game. He does get a fair amount of assists. And, you got young players like this stepping up for Houston. There's a reason why they're only a half game back of Memphis in the division. This guy's a guy that's on the rise, and this is a real big opportunity for him to finally play his natural position. So I'm expecting big things from Amen Thompson. We're going to go over 21.5 points and assists.
Oh, 21.5 points and assists. That kid is really starting to come into his own. All of Houston, in fact. Let me ask you, Jess, because the whole world got lit up there yesterday with the news of Luka heading to the Lakers in what is still going to be maybe one of the craziest trades in the history of the NBA, I think, when it's all said and done. But with all the focus being on them and guys running to the window to bet the Lakers or fade Dallas or vice versa here, Houston, you can find them at a pretty decent number. What do you give the Houston Rockets? What's their ceiling this year? Can they actually make a run at this?
Yeah, I mean, you look at who's in their way. You look at OKC as the favorite to come out of the West. And I think Houston matches up quite well with them. Some of these young players, as they get better. And let's face it, look at OKC last year against Dallas. They threw up all over themselves. They were expected to win that series. And, whether or not OKC can actually get it done in the postseason, that has yet to be proven. So, I certainly think there's some value on Houston.
Yeah, I do too with that number there. Crazier things have happened. Hell, Luka got traded. Let's talk about college hoops here tonight, Jess, before we dive in to the big game, of course, and a prop that you've got circled for us. We're talking the big game tonight, main game, ESPN. It's going to be the primetime game, Iowa State at Kansas. Kansas coming off the single biggest meltdown in the history of Kansas basketball, which goes back a few years there, Jess. And Bill Self, yikes. Thank goodness you locked yourself in that long-term deal a couple of years back, because that was embarrassing to lose a shorthanded Baylor team and to give up, up as high as 21 points in that game, and they could not get it done. Iowa State can't shoot anymore. Now they're on a 2-game losing streak. One of these teams has to bounce back. So which one is it, do you think?
I think that blown lead, as you mentioned, I think that sets up a get-right game for Kansas. I think this is an easy one, to tell you the truth, Joe. One does not bet against Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. It's simply something that you're not going to get up and excited to do that. You look at their overall record with Bill Self at home, 292-16 in home games. At one point, they won 69 straight at home. And I know they haven't looked as sharp this year. They've lost a couple home games, but let's look into those. So they lose in double overtime to Houston. Houston's a pretty damn good team. No shame in that. And then they lost a 1-point game against West Virginia. Iowa State comes in. They're looking a little bit suspect themselves. They're coming off a road loss at Arizona. And then they lose by 19 to a very below average Kansas State team. I know some of us at WagerTalk are Kansas State fans, but they're not exactly looking great in the Big 12 this year. You look at Iowa State, they've already lost at West Virginia, at Arizona. It certainly doesn't get any easier at Kansas. Just not enough points to even entertain the thought of taking Iowa State. And like I said, it's a get-right game for Kansas. I'll take the Jayhawks. I will try to get them on the money line, though. I was able to get this at 130. I wake up awful early because I'm on the other side of the world. Last I checked, I saw some 140s. If you can get it at 140 or lower, I would go money line rather than laying 2 or 2.5. But once it gets closer to 150, you're just going to have to lay the points because the value has been sucked up there. But yeah, Kansas all the way for me.
Yeah, well, they're doing it a little differently this year, and they have not lost, by the way, I think 3 games at Fog Allen in a season since 2001. So it's been a hot minute since we've seen this team be that inept at home, not to mention Iowa State sweeping Kansas for the season series. Yikes, didn't think we were going to get that one coming either, Jess. So big game coming up here tonight there. Big game coming up on Sunday, Jess. And boy, you've been red hot too, especially when it comes to football here, my man. We got a prop you're going to tell us about, but first, break down what do you got going on at your page at WagerTalk, and just how good has it been?
Yeah, I got an NBA play available. What my top prop in the NBA is up on my page, and I'm finalizing my 5-game Super Bowl card. I'm not going to be betting a side in the big game. I'm going to stick to props. Steve Merril brought up the fact that he watched the tape of Super Bowl 57, the same matchup between these two teams. Let's keep in mind how that game ended. Kansas City with the ball in a tie game. Phantom controversial pass interference call. I don't want to be on the wrong side of something like that in this game. I don't see an edge, to be honest. It's a pick'em game. You got some questions with the officiating. I'd rather sit this one out as far as taking the side and just focus on the props. And as you mentioned, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 10-1 run. I was 10-1 with the NFL playoffs and the divisional round and the conference championships. And of those 11 plays, only one of them was a side. The majority were player props and totals. So, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And we're going to look at player props for the Super Bowl. And I have one for you here, Joe. Let's look at Jalen Hurts. I think the biggest misconception about this Super Bowl, you talk to the casuals and they're all saying Saquon's going to go off for $150 and 3 tutties. Like that's just going to be something that's easy to do. Well, I'll tell you what, nobody's gone over 120. No running back has run for 120 yards in the last 20 years. And no running backs run for 100 yards against a Steve Spagnuolo defense in 18 straight games. I know damn well that if Barkley goes off for 150 yards and 3 tutties, the Eagles are going to win in a rout. I know it. You know it. Teddy knows it. Steve Merril knows it. And be sure that Steve Spagnuolo knows it as well. So he's going to be heavily invested in picking your poison, focus on slowing down Saquon. And, as you stack players in the closer to the line of scrimmage, that leaves open receivers or single coverage, one-on-one matchups. But I think that the Chiefs are going to be comfortable letting Jalen Hurts try to beat them. If they've got to pick their poison, they're just not going to open the door for Saquon to run all over them, because that would be a disaster. And they'd rather see Jalen Hurts attempt to pick them apart and see if he can do it. And speaking of Hurts, Super Bowl 57, 304 yards on 27 of 38 passing. He also ran for 70 yards and a couple touchdowns as well. But yeah, 210 and a half yards for Jalen Hurts to over 210 and a half passing yards. I just don't think that the running lanes are going to be there for Barkley. And I think they're going to dare Hurts to throw the ball. And I think he can at least get over 210 and a half yards.
Yeah, don't hate that at all. And I'm with you, Jesse, because I don't believe they're going to do anything different except wrap up. Do not allow them to bust the 65, 70-yard touchdown run and change the game like that. Otherwise, if he wants to get 3 or 4, 4 yards, be my guest. Just don't let him open the game up there. And I don't think they have to do anything really crazy to prevent him from going 70 yards on a mere drop back handoff and a stretch play, which apparently works wonders. Jess, you don't even have to draw anything exciting up. Just hand them the ball and let them go, apparently. So we'll see if Spags and company can get it done. I'm with Gianni Detroit, who's in the chat room right now. Under Barkley props across the board for him. Do you guys agree with that? I'm with you, Jess. I think it's going to have to be Jalen Hurts is going to have to outdo Patrick Mahomes if they're going to win this game. Always a pleasure, Jess. Good to see you here, my man. We'll see you, of course, throughout the week here on Wager Talk. Always a pleasure. Enjoy it, man. Appreciate the knowledge as always. Don't forget to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you can here, guys, as we've got plenty more Eagles talk coming up. I can assure you on that. But what about the market? What are we seeing here? We had crazy NBA trades. We've got a crazy college basketball season. And, well, we got that big game coming up on Sunday. So who better to point us in the right direction than our man, Gianni the Greek? VR in the house. I see you changed the steam room shirt from yesterday. Outstanding, Gianni. It's always a pleasure, my man.
He gave us a easy 20+% dip last night. You got to give your props to them. You kind of like you wear a jersey on Monday after a nice score. And once they dump, they hit that max pain level where they liquidated like $3 billion worth of longs that people were leveraged. And it's just been trading in that same spot from like 108 to 91. Like, it's going to stay in that same place. Like, honestly, if it dipped lower, I would have been like, with Bitcoin, okay, big deal. I bought a little Bitcoin. That's the worst that could happen. ETH, I bought a little cheap ETH. That's the worst that could happen. But I traded it. I got out of it. I got in and out of it overnight. That was easy. Now I'm just waiting for the next big dump. ETH down to like 11 to 1,200. I think we may see that in the near future. But it's all about hoops today. And because it got college basketball, just 2 NBA sides, no NHL. It's only that one NHL game, but they're mostly hitting those added board games. That's why you're seeing the screen light up. If you're looking at Odds Logic right now or the Wager Talk screen, you'll notice the light ups are all on the extra board. They're just pounding that. And it's kind of like the sharps versus the books there. So you got to get down quickly, or else you're going to miss the number more times than not. So that's what I've been doing all morning, getting these groups down, trying to confirm some things for my subscribers, and keep the hot streak going.
Yeah, well, the big game college hoops, obviously, Kansas taking on Iowa State, but I would imagine there's probably not a lot of move one way or the other in that, given these 2 high-profile games, and the books are just going to be waiting for the public to come in and bet. That's probably the only game the public's really betting at this point, Yanni.
Yeah, and they're betting Kansas. That's why it was the opener 2. Now it's up to that 3. They're betting the over as well. That's usually the case, especially on those TV games, even with Kansas and, the under in that game. That's the surprise. Sorry. They're betting under in Iowa State and Kansas. A little surprising there. They usually tend to bet the overs on those primetime games. So probably some recency bias involved. I haven't really dug deep because they didn't bet it. Any of the groups that I work with or anyone else that shares information for groups that they work with, they weren't behind any of that move as far as the going from 2 to 3, or I think from 145, 146, where it sits at now. That's all recreational bettors related.
Yep.
That's why you don't see a big move. Like it tick. It went a half a point. When these guys pound, it's going to move a point and a half at least.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be, if you like Kansas, you got to get down early because the money's going to keep coming in up until tip off. If you like the total, kind of split. Usually, like I said, the bias is towards the over, but I'm seeing as of right now, and it's only 9:30 a.m. over here on the West Coast, but I'm seeing more under tickets than over tickets, and that's a rarity when it comes to those primetime games. With these isolated games, you got to be really careful because you know they're going to be so one-sided. And the books are going to be okay to shade towards the bias because even if they let the sharps come in and take the best of it, let's say Kansas should only be a 1-point favorite, but they jack them up to 3 because they know the betting public's going to come in so heavy on them. That's the only primetime game more or less on the board. They're going to allow us to come in and take the 3 and help them limit their risk. Their problem is they don't want us getting down at -1, -2, -3, where they could get a middle. So they rather automatically shade it towards that bias, hope that the sharper groups come in and help them eliminate some of that risk. I'm sure if it goes to like 3.5 or 4, you will see some Iowa State money from the betting syndicates. But like I said, they're pounding these extra board games mostly today.
Yeah, a lighter slate of games here. That's usually what we see early on in the week here. Did any of your groups, Gianni, on the news of Doncic becoming a Laker, were they running to the window baiting Laker to win it all? What in the world are we seeing in the NBA right now?
No, and they rarely come in with those to win a Super Bowl, to win an NBA championship, those futures, because the hold is so high. It's pari-mutuel. It's like being at the horse track. That's why they don't bet horses unless they have some inside information because the hold is so high, upwards of 30, 40% at times. So like, for example, it's 10 times higher than your straight bet. Like when you bet 11 to win 10, their hold is 4.5%. When you bet 10 on a future, their hold is $4. So they love this future money. You know, it's $3 or $4. That's why the sharps rarely get involved. That actually in the NFL was the one time this year that I saw it in a long time where they bet the San Francisco 49ers after like week 3 or 4 because they came out of the gate not doing so well. But on paper, they believed they were still the best team in the NFL and that the true implied probability wasn't what the books were offering. So they were willing to make that bet. Eventually, they ran into a bunch of injuries, so it was a losing bet. But it's rare they'll ever bet those futures. It's usually the recreational bettors because, like I said, it's pari-mutuel. If people start betting the Lakers, odds on the other teams go up. They start betting the Cavs, odds on the other side start going up. Just like the horse, the money starts coming in on the 2 horse, his odds go down, odds on the other ones go up. It's not like that, when we're going game by game, laying 11 to win 10. So I don't fault anyone for betting those futures. You got a nice ticket, usually long odds, a team to root for all season, especially with the NBA where almost everyone makes the playoffs. But it's not a good EV bet. It's more for action. Yeah. Like if you're doing it for fun and for action, have at it and pick that team you think is going to win the NBA championship and then tuck that ticket away and face game by game situations. Don't let that affect you at all until it gets to playoff time. If you have a bunch of equity built up, then you can make some money. God bless you. But don't let that sway you one direction or another because you want the Lakers now to start winning basketball games. So you're looking for reasons to bet them every night. If you're betting any futures, bet that future, tuck it away. Kind of like March Madness. Put in your bracket, pick your final 4, bet your team to win it all, then tuck that bracket away and start looking at it game by game. Don't let those bracket picks affect what you're going to be doing when it comes to the point spread, because I see that happening all the time. And it's almost like you're putting yourself in a corner where you're needing this team to win, but the value may be on the other side.
Yeah, that's so true with that. And by the way, they'd make that 49er bet again, given the opportunity and the value that it presented that early on in the season. So not every bet that is going to win, but if the value is there, you'll make that bet again, Gianni, right? You're not going to turn your nose because of the outcome of it. The bet, it's either a good bet or it's not. They don't all cash, but It's the process that matters the most here. What do you got going? I know you got a big UFC card coming up, right? Australia this Saturday here. So what do you have locked, loaded, ready to roll at your page at Wager Talk for us?
I got my 5% up in the Super Bowl, handful of props, added another one today. I have a UFC card with my first 5% of the year, 14-5 on those over the last 365 days, over 40% ROI, over 40 units won on those big 5%. This one, you don't have to lay much chalk at all. In fact, I don't think you have to lay chalk on it. With that said, I also threw in another 3% earlier this morning. If you're going to get down on UFC with me, don't wait till Saturday. We're going to move these lines. Like I'm sure the bet I threw in as a 3% has already moved. I work with originators. I already have my leans circled. When they come in on a side that I like, I fire and I release it. And that's exactly what happened this morning, where I have my card already done because I'm taping a show for the UFC on Wednesday. So I have to already have my notes. I already went through the card already. So I know who I like. Now I just wait for the guys I respect to give me some confirmation. We got one that was worth a 5% early. We got one this morning worth a 3%. So I'm real excited about what's coming up this weekend. But between now and then, we can do some damage in hoops because there's a lot of opportunities on the board.
Yes, love it, Gianni. If it ain't broke, we ain't fixing it, brother. It ain't broke with you. We ain't fixing it, man. We got a lot of bets coming up this week. And, of course, we'll see you all week here on Wager Talk Today. Enjoy, Gianni. We appreciate it as always, my man. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. But before we get out of here, guys, and don't forget, Teddy covers Drew Martin coming up here in just a couple of minutes here for one of the final opening line reports, getting you caught up with everything you need to know about Sunday's game. They'll have much more information, prop bets, all that good stuff coming up in just a few minutes. But we talked an awful lot about Kansas City. And this week, we want to get a non-biased opinion and a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. And if I mean, you want to talk about, there is one person that will always keep it right in the middle, man. He will never, ever steer you wrong. Dan Alexander in the house. And Dan, I wouldn't imagine that you'd be biased at all in your Eagle thoughts, prop bets and opinions, because I heard that you have a lot of Kansas City props already bet. Is that true? What do you got for this team here this week?
I'll be honest with you, Joe. I was gonna I was gonna turn the green screen on, and then I realized, oh wait, I don't have a thing that's not green on me. So we didn't have an option for that, or I would just be a floating head here. But yeah, a lot of Kansas City talk that we have here. So what we'll do, Joe, since when Prez is away, the producers will play. I'll hop on here every day and we'll give some unbiased thoughts. As you said, I got the starter jacket on here, nice Eagles green that we're rocking, but that doesn't mean that it's all going to be Eagles, Joe. Day one, I'm going to respond, I think, tomorrow a little bit about this Saquon Barkley talk, all these unders that we're hitting, because wasn't the plan to stop Saquon Barkley every single week, and the guy rushed for over 2,000 yards. So we'll address that in the coming days. But I'll start off, Joe, so people don't completely lambaste me all week long. I actually like Pat Mahomes going over his longest rush for the game. The reason why I'm not going to be ISOing in strictly on his total yards is because how many times have we seen this get absolutely burnt by kneel downs at the end of the game, the gamesmanship where they'll run backwards for 15 yards even. So no one wants to be standing there with a Pat Mahomes total yards ticket that you lose on. So if you're going to bet Pat Mahomes, take the rush attempts over. But the one that I like is taking his longest rush over. Sure, if you look over the past couple weeks and you're trying to cash a ticket, as the number sitting right now around 13.5, he's been right around that number, under more than he has been over. But one thing that I know my birds do every single week, especially when you got a quarterback with some legs on him, is give up one of those big runs. They did it to Jaden Daniels last week. If you look at whenever they're playing teams with a little bit of a leggy quarterback, they gave it up, against the Jaguars with Lawrence. They even gave up a big rush to Matt Stafford in that game. And I don't think we think Matt Stafford's a big rusher. So with it sitting around 13.5, Joe, I think if you want to get down on some Pat Mahomes rushing, taking his longest attempt is the best way to just make it a one and done prop, that you're not sitting there with a losing ticket because of some craziness at the end of the game if Kansas City does get the win done. So it's not all birds props that I have for you, Joe. We do have one Pat Mahomes prop there for you that will start off the week to maybe ease us in before Wash Redskin in the comments absolutely comes to take my head off, you know?
Listen, unbiased opinion. That's what we're looking at from Philadelphia fans. Unbiased. The guy shows up all green and gives you a Pat Mahomes prop. What is tomorrow going to bring? You're going to have to just show up tomorrow here so we can figure it all out. Big shout out to Big Daddy Eric D, Titan CT, memorabilia, Larry Sports Talk in the house. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Maybe Paul Bowman, best chat room comment of the week, wanting to know, was that Kenny Pickett? You're going to have to come back in and check it out here, guys. Always a pleasure, though. We appreciate it. Thumbs up, like button, get ready. Teddy Covers, Drew Martin coming up. Opening line report just a couple of minutes away. We'll see you again tomorrow here on WagerTalk Today. Boom. There you go. All right. All right. So you can end that. We should be